Hashem Yeshuvanu Ba'u L'Tzion Benina Avdu 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 Hashem Yeshuvanu Ba'u L'Tzion Benina Hashem Yeshuvanu Ba'u L'Tzion Benina Avdu Hashem Yeshuvanu Ba'u L'Tzion Benina Avdu Hashem Yeshuvanu Ba'u L'Tzion Benina. Bezat Hashem, the learning should be the refuat Morin v'Rabbeinu Rav Menachem Yoshua ben Leah Rezo v'Achola Shlomit bat Chaya betoch shar kol cholei Yisrael. Last week we spoke about the meaning of the menorah. This week, instead of speaking about the specific meaning of one kli, I want to try and understand an idea behind an addition to the kelim. We have three kelim in the Mishkan that, except for the kli, they have something called a zer. The literal meaning of a zer is a decoration. But for us, we know that every kli, every vessel has a certain purpose. The purpose of the shulchan is to have bread on the shulchan. The purpose of the menorah is to have candles on the menorah. The purpose of mizbach haktoret is to have ktoret to put on a altar. The purpose of the mizbach outside is for korbanot. We all understand that. To be able to do the action we want to do, we need to have something to do it on. So that's simple. But there are three kelim that, except for their building of the factual ability to do this action, they get this there. One is the Aron, inside Kodesh Kodashim. The second one is shulchan, in the Kodesh. And the third one is mizbach hazahav. And I want to try through the Sefat Emet and the Gemara. First through the Sefat Emet to understand what is the meaning of the zer. Why do we need to have this addition on the kli itself? But then through the Sefat Emet, I want to see a separation in this group of two types of ktarim. So when we look in the Sefat Emet, in the year 1881, he says, Shlosha Zering. There are three crowns. Zer Ba'aron, ושולחן ומזבח. There are three different ktarim. One in the Aron, one in the Shulchan, one in the Mizbach, like we spoke about. V'ha'inyan. When the Sefat Emet says v'ha'inyan, he's saying, what is the zer about? What is the keter about? V'ha'inyan hu shekol elu hem מעוררין וממשיכין עזר וסיוע מעולם העליון. Incredible! Says the Sefat Emet, the kli that has an addition of a zer becomes two kelim. The kli itself, the vessel itself, is the action of man. And the action of man is giving a korban, is lighting candles. But he says that there's an ability not only in the kli to find a place for man's action, but there's an ability in the kli, in the zer, to bring God into the world. The zer says that there's a kli, which is the man's action, and the zer, which is an ability of man to bring God into the world. So it's incredible what the Sefat Emet does, that by understanding this little zer, he says that there are two kelim in one. That these three kelim have the connection between an action by man and one ability to bring God into that kli and connect them both in one vessel. But the question is, what do each of these things resemble? To understand, what does this mean that the zer brings God into the world? So if we look in Gemara Masechet Yoma, Daf Ayin Bet Amud Bet, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Shlosha Zerim Hem. There are three crowns, Shel Mizbach, V'Shel Aron, V'Shel Shulchan. Says Rabbi Yochanan, like we just saw, there are three ktarim. But he goes to the next level. Shel Mizbeach Zacha Aharon Unetalo. He says Aron HaKohen was zocha to take the zer of the spiritual revelation of God, and he brought it into the world. Shel Shulchan Zacha David Unetalo. Says the Gemara in Masechet Yoma, the keter of the mizbach was taken by a person, Aharon. The keter of the shulchan was taken by a person named David. And we know that Aharon is kehuna. There's the crown of kehuna, and a kohen is the ability to bring the spirituality to the world. And the melech, David HaMelech, David Malka Meshicha, is the person who fights the wars of the world. He is the leader who brings down the physicality, the physical light of God into the world. But incredible. The Gemara says now, so who took the zer of the Aron? The zer of the Aron, the zer of the Torah. And we would think, Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Emet v'Torato Emet. Moshe brings the Torah down to the world. And we would think, oh, obviously, Moshe Rabbeinu gets the Keter Torah, says the Gemara, no. Shel Aron Adain Munachu. Kol harotze likach yavo v'ikach. It's so deep what the Gemara is saying. It says, even in the three Zerim, there are two groups. There's the Mizbach and the Shulchan. And the Mizbach and Shulchan are taken by a specific person. So even if you want to be a Melech, and you're from Shevet, Asher, or Zvulun, you can't do it. And if you're a Levi or Israel, you can learn all of Torah, but you'll never become a Kohen. So what is the difficult idea there? That it cancels the Ratzon. If it's taken already, then I'm not there, then I don't have any will They say there's a third keter that isn't taken by anyone. And kol harotze likach yavo bikach. The keter of Torah is not about ability, it's about will. Aron had a special ability. David had a special ability. But Torah was not meant for only how smart or how great or how intellectual or how talented you are. Torah is given through ratzon kol harotze lavo likach, yikach. But what's so deep is I think that we could see this in the Torah itself. If you look in every zer in the Torah, you'll see that when it says the mizbach, it says ve'asita lo zer. And when it says the zer of the shulchan, it says ve'asita lo zer. Also in the shulchan and also in the mizbach, we see that the zer is lo, it belongs to him. If you look in the Aron, ve'asita alav zer. Meaning the zer is never, it never belongs to a person. It doesn't belong even to the Aron. It's just left there for whoever wants it. It's alav, it's not lo, it's not his. It doesn't belong to the kli. It belongs not to the action, but to the will. I was zocha in my life to have one of the most amazing chavrutot in the world. My chavruta for 4 years, learning about the Mishkan together for so many years, was Mori Rabbeinu Reb Ilya Feldman. And more than the learning, Reb Ilya taught me the most amazing thing in the world. He was born in Russia. Born in Russia, didn't know a word of Hebrew. He wasn't Jewish. His parents told him as a child, look for purpose. He comes to Israel and he goes to a place called Yamin Ord, which was burnt in the fire on Hanukkah 2 months ago. And at the age of 18, he decides, I want to be a ger. And a month later, at the age of 18, deciding to become a ger, he walks into the doors of a yeshiva called Otniel. And I've seen many people enter the Beit Midrash in the 10 years that I've been in the yeshiva. Some know more, some know less. But none of them know nothing. None of them don't know the letter of Rashi. They've never opened up a Gemara. Ilya walked into the yeshiva. He never opened a Gemara. He didn't know how to read Rashi. And out of all my friends, I've never seen someone grow so much. He was my chavruta. But more, like I said, than the learning, he taught me about the will. He taught me that it's not always a question of talent. Yeah, that's Aron and David. They were talented. They did a lot to become talented. But the koach of the Torah is that it doesn't belong to the action. It doesn't belong to the Aron. It belongs to the kol harotze. Do you want? Do you have a will? Because that itself is bringing God into the world. And I think very often we think that our ability to bring God into the world is by our actions. Did we do this? Did we do that? The idea of the Aron is to come and say the zer of the Aron, like the Sefat Emet said. The zer brings down God. Our ability to bring God isn't only through tzedakah and tzitzis and tefillin and our Shabbos table. Sometimes it's through our tears. Sometimes it's through our standing in tefillah and saying to God, this is what I want. That itself, without the result, could also bring God into the world. My bracha to all of us is, first of all, we should all be zocheh to have friends and rabbis like Rabbi Leah, like I have, who really show us that idea of the will. But to understand that the zering themselves, like the Sefat Emet said, create two kelim within one kli. But the most unique one is the Aron. That because it doesn't belong to talent, it belongs to the will. We should all be zocheh to want and to understand that by wanting something, we're bringing Hashem into the world. And like we say in Ashrei, Potach et yadecha umazbiah lekol chai, stop ratzon. The ratzon is what makes people different. And that is God's greatest present in the Aron and in Ashrei. And we should all be zocheh, truly, 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 to believe in our will and know that our will itself makes a world different. Shabbat Shalom.